Welcome to Blue Monday from the Blue Room with me, Les, Dave, and Rodger. Been a quiet few weeks for the Toffees. We've had no game for 2 Saturdays, but we are back with a bang this week with the Merseyside derby at Anfield on Wednesday and then Arsenal at home and a 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. How have you found it without the Toffees, lads? There's been not that much to talk about, has there?
Do you know, normally I don't like these things. Normally I like these things when there is a gap and there is a break, and I can't stand international football, as many people will know. But this time I was gutted that there wasn't games. I was gutted that we weren't playing, because I found myself back in an old Everton mentality of wanting to watch us all the time. I want us to see games. I want to see us progress. I want to see the players that we want to keep, ones we want to sign. I mean, how many times do we say it every week and have a debate on who you want to stay in terms of contract issues and whatnot? So yeah, I mean, I've missed seeing us play. Having said that, the next two that come up, I'll probably be hiding behind the couch thinking I really wish we weren't playing.
Yeah, I might not be thinking that after Wednesday.
No.
Rodger, have you found it? The FA Cup was a tough watch, I thought, at the weekend.
Was terrible games. I mean, just terrible games. That Brighton Forest game, neither of them wanted to even play it. When you think so much is at stake, and when you think that that it's there for the winning, any one of those teams. Yeah, I thought it was disappointing. Villa did all right. Villa are a proper team, going for everything, and looked very, very comfortable. Bournemouth were a bit unlucky. City are in a mess, aren't they? Sort of got out of jail a little bit. And Forest looked toothless without big Chris Wood. So, I mean, from an Everton perspective, I think it's I've enjoyed watching Leeds bottle it, and that plays to my, Angus Kinnear is going to stay there and watch them over the line, just to make sure they get in the Premier League. Yeah, what are you going to do if they don't then, Angus?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, because for anyone who never saw the results of the weekend, they absolutely bottled it. They went 2-1 up with about a minute to go, and then Swansea equalised. And the thing is, I don't think I'd be more sort of depressed at what the three sides that are probably going to come up look like. Well, certainly two of the three, because it's Leeds, Sheffield United, and Burnley, who are all in the chase. I think Sheffield United are probably there, so one of the other two. I think if Leeds miss it, I think that's incredibly funny, because I do feel that the side that does finish third, notoriously, they miss out on coming up from the playoffs. So, even having said that, I mean, there's the three behind them aren't exactly thrillers. I mean, I'd love Coventry. I know that we all laugh at Frank, but I'd love Coventry to come up and have a go, because they narrowly missed out last season. That was the season before.
They did under Mark Robbins. Yeah,
they missed out. So yeah, I mean, I do fancy a bit of Championship football when we're not playing, and it gets to this stage of the season. But can you imagine Burnley being back there?
Oh,
yeah, it gets monotonous, doesn't it, when the same teams go down and then come back up? It's.
I mean, Leeds are traditional side. Leeds are, aside from where they are, a top 20 side. Let's make no bones about that. And yeah, I mean, I feel as if watching their games as well, that's the place to go to. And with that in mind, the connection to that is that I had to write yesterday for the BBC and saying that these semi-finals are still at Wembley. It's just a massive shitter, isn't it? Really, I can't stand that the FA Cup semi-finals are still at Wembley, and I think they've persisted with that, because I think initially it was to pay the loan back. But surely, how long has it been now? 20 years? It's been 2005, I think it was, wasn't it? The first time the new Wembley opened. There's no way they have paid back that in the amount of games they've had there in 20 years. Yeah,
there was no going back. There was no way they were going to go back.
I think you're right. And look, I do understand if it's for say Preston got through. That's a great day for them. Completely understand that. But and it is for Palace and things, but I don't know that everything around the sort of mystique that you get on a cup final. I mean, it's been crap for years, hasn't it?
It's basically it's Tottenham and Arsenal's fault for getting to the semi-final that time, and they played it at Wembley years ago. Remember? To be fair, that was kind of the obvious venue, because it was North London and that.
Yeah, I mean, I do miss, obviously for us in '95, Ellen Road is one of the
Villa
on the
Park.
Best day ever. Yep.
But it was Villa Park there, Old Trafford have it as well.
Trafford, yeah.
It's probably a good quiz question, that isn't it? What
Goodison was
ground
used as well, wasn't it, in the 70s for United Liverpool, I think.
It was what, sorry?
Goodison was used in the 70s for United v Liverpool, I think.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
We beat Southampton at Highbury as well. Adrian Heath, 1984, was it not? Yep. At the far post. Yep.
I think that's a really good question, you know.
Just wait till Andy Burnham gets his, Wembley of the North. That'll be hosting the semis in 5 or 10 years' time. You know?
Yeah, and Birmingham as well. And Birmingham getting a new stadium.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, the Midlands as well. That'll have something to do with it, because I think that there's like a massive gap there, that they'll all be really enthusiastic about getting big games there. And you know, Bramley Moore as well. You never know about that, do you? Bramley Moore doing the FA Cup semi-finals. I mean, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see it just go back to how it was.
Yeah, it would be good. Tell you what, though, we'll move on from new stadiums to one of our old ones. Our oldest one, in fact, where we're playing on Wednesday night. Did you like that? Yeah, so I was just thinking about sort of things we could talk about leading up to this game, without going into team news and all that, because, you know, we'll do that better elsewhere. And I was just thinking about our record there at Anfield. Is, you know, we've not got the best record at a lot of these big grounds, but at Anfield it is particularly wretched. I worked out, I think we've won 6 times in my lifetime at Anfield, and 3 of those were in the 80s. And it's just, what do you know? What is it? Is it purely because Liverpool have generally had a better side than us in that time, or do you think there is something there with Everton and Evertonians at that place? It's just an interesting thread I want to pull out, really, because having been there a few times, there's absolutely no confidence in the fans or the team by the look of it. The main one for me was Ancelotti in the FA Cup, when as soon as we saw that they'd announced like a weakened team, I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I was thinking we're never going to beat these now. When it should have been, let's get at these and do them in, but we just didn't. And you know, obviously we got knocked out. But what do you fellas find when you go to Anfield, or what are your thoughts about it?
I've only been twice as an away fan and never as an Everton fan. I have to say, I've never had the guts to go to a derby. I've been there with a mate who was a Man United fan in the year that United lost the league at Anfield. Ian Rush scored twice, and yeah, I mean, that was extraordinary. Such an unpleasant atmosphere, and once with a Villa fan. I hate the place. I absolutely hate the place, and I think there's some sort of ingrained mental weakness that we start off on the back foot. I think if the players swapped shirts before they came out, and the Liverpool team played in blue and the Everton team played in red, which would clearly be sacrilegious, maybe we'd get a different outcome. Yeah. There's something about it, you know. The players that go there, the players in blue who go there, seem to go there with fear, and I can't remember very many players of ours in the last 20 years. But forget the 80s, because the 80s, you know, it was head-to-head football. Everton, Liverpool ruled the world, as we talked about with Gareth, didn't we? You know, it was always a game of equals, and we always felt that we had a real competitive chance, and we proved it, and we beat them on several occasions. But since then, and even when they've had a very, very lean period, you know, one title in 30 odd years, we've still gone there. And even under Moyes, when we were, you know, best of the rest and 4th, 5th, 6th against them, we just don't seem to have that, the cojones, really. I can't put my finger on it. And it's just, you know, it's Groundhog Day, isn't it? I mean, you've had great moments like a Jags equaliser in the last minute. Yeah, that was great. And of course, the only time we beat them, there was no one there. Yeah, Kevin Campbell scored in a scramble, but after that, you know, and beating us with the under-12s in that cup tie, and then, of course, you know, Pickford and Origi and onto the crossbar, and Jesus, it's a nightmare waiting to happen. But I'm extremely confident. I don't think we'll get beat on Wednesday. I think they're there for the taking, and I think we'll get at least a point. So there you go. That's my bipolar approach to
it. You got some bottles saying that. I mean. Go probably a little bit further than Rodger. I just think we absolutely shit ourselves when we go there. I feel that it feels already beaten. And how many times you're going to hear it all week long? Oh, I'd take a point. I'd take a draw. I hated that term form goes out the window, because it very rarely does. Because obviously they've been a better team, a better footballing team than us for quite some time. Form doesn't go out the window. We go there and get a draw. And like you say, the COVID one, I would and go as far as saying that if the crowd was there, Everton wouldn't have won that game.
Absolutely.
I just, in terms of hating it, I don't hate it because I don't know whether it's because I've been there a few times to do various bits and pieces of stuff. I've once scored a goal there myself as well, which I've got a pin to my wall over there. I'm only joking. I did score though, and yeah, I mean, it's there's a feeling about the mentality you have going there. I think as a fan, when you get in there, it's that very sort of mentality that we all have in terms of can't stand them as a footballing team. And I know everyone will talk about friends and family. Half of my family are Reds and all that thing. I think most people have got somebody in the family who's a Red, and vice versa. And yeah, I mean, I feel it's just a really, really shitty occasion, and that will have carried on through from our form there. And I feel like, do you know what? I know as much as we've praised him since he came in around Christmas time, David Moyes has a lot to blame for when we've been there in just over a decade that he was our manager, because the amount of times we've gone there and they've been for the taking, I've thought, why on earth is he playing like this? There was one occasion where I went ballistic. It was 0-0, and I think we beat them. It might well have been after the Carsley game at Goodison. That season, we went there and drew 0-0. I'm almost certain it was that season. And Andy Johnson has a cracking chance with about 5 minutes to go. And all he needs to do is sort of get the ball about, a couple of inches off the floor. And he hits it straight at the goalkeeper. And I just used to remember, speaking with Moyes beforehand, and it just felt like Everton stayed in the little Everton bubble. They didn't go there and want an expansive style of football, because I think there was more a fear of getting beat, like hammered, like we did. Having said that, that might be quite a contradicting statement. When we went there with Martinez, actually opened the door, and they completely destroyed us, didn't they? But having said that, I'd far sooner go there with that mentality and have a go at them, rather than sit there with all 11 men behind the ball, and you get the odd chance from a corner. The one game that was great, I mean, and obviously it might be quite. People might be thinking, "Oh, do you know what? I can't listen to this." Us crying in games when we've been to Anfield. One of them that I did love in particular was when we scored with about 5 minutes left. Arteta fizzed one in, and Tim Cahill is at the front post and just flicks it past Pepe Reina. It's sad that it's a draw. Jagielka, like you mentioned there, Rodger, as well. They're the moments we've got at that place, And yeah, it's just a horrible, horrible day, horrible game. But this time, I've got a different feeling. As much as I'm absolutely blagging this, is that it doesn't matter. They've won the league. We've stayed up. It's a friendly. I don't care what happens in this game. The only thing I did care about in the previous few weeks was that if we went there and if they beat us to claim the title, that would be probably down there as one of the worst days we had, if they had to do us to win the title. Thankfully, that's not the case. And losing to Arsenal, having to win against Arsenal, and they won the league that day. We don't have anything to do with this. So with that in mind, aside from the feeling I have towards them and desperate to want to beat them whenever we play them, it's not a derby, in my opinion. It's not a derby that we've seen in the past where we're likely to go there, get done, and that's it, crack on to the next game. And the fact that it's midweek, you've got another game 3 days later, forget about it.
Yeah, I'm with Rodger. I'm actually relatively confident that we won't get beat. Just to pick up on David Moyes, his record there is terrible for every team he's managed. He's never won there once. He's more often than not got beat. He's been there with Sunderland, West Ham, us, Man United, never won a game there. Now, you could say they've always had a superior team than the one he's had, which is probably true, 75% of the time.
A lot of draws there, though, Les.
A lot of draws there, yeah. And, it's what you do then. So form book doesn't go out the window, contrary to popular belief. We're currently 13th in the form table, even though we're on like a big unbeaten run. We've drawn
all over the place, isn't it?
So yeah. So I think I don't know if we do go there and try and play expansive and get at them. We've seen Marco Silva do that, got absolutely webbed. It was 5-2, I think, in the end, wasn't it? Martinez got beat 4-0 twice. So you've got to read the game well, haven't you? And like really set up your team. I think to defend primarily, but we've got the attacking options now to hit them on the break. I think Calvert-Lewin's out still. McNeil might be back, but probably a bit too soon, and Dye's back in training. So we could potentially have options. Rog, how would you approach this game? Because I think they've only lost, they've lost once in the league to Forest. They lost in the Cup to Plymouth, and they got knocked out against PSG. Now, 2 of those happened in the last month. But they're the only bad. Obviously, Newcastle in the League Cup final. They're the only sort of negative results they've had the whole season, really. So how on earth do you approach this game with the squad we've got?
Well, they've had 2 of those results very recently, as you point out, against PSG, and they were, PSG. It's all of a new one, really, over both legs. So the fact that it had to go to extra time, PSG were the better team, and if it wasn't for Alisson in the first game in Paris, PSG would have been out of sight. I think there's an arrogance about them and their fan base and their manager at the moment, which we can play to. They will win the league. They'll win the league, and they'll deserve to win the league because they've got more points than any other team, clearly. But it's not the strongest league. There hasn't really been a challenger, and they're going to almost fall over the line. There's problems losing players out of contract, but there's an arrogance there that Everton are coming, and what happens is we batter them. I think we have to be really. I think confident is the most important thing. Confident in who we are rather than who we were before Christmas, and pretty much the same players, of course. But I think there's an organisation at the back. Tarkowski's playing well. Branthwaite plays well. Mikolenko has a very good record. If he's fit, is he fit, Mikolenko? Against Salah, is he not fit? No.
Yeah, he got injured, didn't he?
On
the international break. So he's I think he's got a late fitness test. He's not ruled out, but I think it's doubtful. I think that's
dangerous because Salah is clearly one of the best players in the league, and Mikolenko has a good record against him. I wouldn't fancy Ashley Young against Mo Salah.
The thing with Salah as well is the last game, I thought Mikolenko pocketed him, but he still scored.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's it's difficult to play. Who's the option there then? Would it just be Ashley Young? I think it would, wouldn't it?
Who else? You're not going to play Dwight McNeil at left wing back, are you? I mean, I suppose you could play Branthwaite at left back and bring in an additional centre half. I suppose you could. You could take a Carlo approach and play 4 centre backs. I wouldn't really want to do that. I think it's about competition in the middle of the field as well. Getting some tackles in early. And one of the things I always think about derbies, and I say this every time, keeping 11 players on the pitch has proved a challenge for us, especially at Anfield. We don't need any Funes Mori, sort of decapitating someone and kissing the badge on his way off. It's just, we don't need that. We need calm, cool heads. They are not that good, right? They're going to win the Premier League, but they're probably the worst team to win the Premier League in the last 5 years, I think. Maybe I'm a bit of blue, but I don't think they're that good, and I think we can compete with them. The central midfield is where the game's going to be won and lost, and that's perhaps where they're at their strongest. So, yeah, I still feel that Moyes has got something to prove. These players are on a decent unbeaten run, and Liverpool are on the wane and just looking to get the job done. So, I think if there was more jeopardy in this, I think if they were, only 3 points clear, and if they drop points, then Arsenal will walk through the door. Then I think that would play to their strengths. I think that arrogance and sort of taking the result for granted, I think we can take advantage there if we get off to a decent start. 2-0 down after 20 minutes and Pickford's having a mare, then different scenario.
Yeah, Dave, the defence is possibly a problem. Obviously, with Mikolenko out, we've got no real cover at left back apart from Ashley Young. But up top, I thought against West Ham, I think Moyes kind of got it wrong a bit. I think I mentioned at the time, he moved Jack Harrison over to the right where he's less effective. He had Alcaraz on the left where I think he's less effective, and Doucouré down the middle. Now, obviously, Decore is like sort of king piss boiler at the minute with the Reds. So, do you start him? Do you go with that starting lineup again up front, or do you try something different? Do you maybe play Alcaraz down the middle? What do you think he goes with there? What would you do?
It's another game. I don't think we've discussed it yet, where it comes back to bite it in the arse as well, doesn't it? And that's what I've got in mind with Decore. That he'll go there, and you mentioned there, Rodger, about some ridiculous tackle like Funes Mori. I mean, I could still punch him for what happened that night, for what he did to Origi, and then that with the badge and all that stuff. But just before we get to that, I did, if you're watching us on YouTube rather than listening to the podcast, I did put my hand up and put 5. And then I thought, hang on, no, everyone put 5. It's because they've won the Champions League, but they've done that 6 times, fortunately enough. So I don't look like that much of a dickhead. But I was putting that up thinking we'll play 5 at the back with the problem that you've got at left back there. And that's why I'm thinking if McNeil's fit, you probably see him there as sort of a left wing back. It's not a game for Ashley Young going there. No. And I feel with your question going forward, if Ndai's fit and Alcaraz and put Lindstrom in ahead of Harrison, you've got a decent 3 there. Yeah. If you played 3 just behind Beto, or Brozier, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that'd be a bit of a different turn that he went to it if he's looking to surprise them and put Brozier up there. And dare to say, we've got a few options that we can make up there. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, didn't I? It's when we spoke so often about everything just picks itself. It doesn't now. Everton have got some versatility in what we can do going forward. You can move players about, and Dye's, he's a box of tricks, isn't he? And so is Alcaraz. Sort of that sort of come from the same thread, to be honest with you. So I'd like to see us do that, but I still think he'll have Gay and he'll have the 2 Garners in midfield. So that means you won't have 3 in front of them. So I'd take Decore out, and I'd have Alcaraz and Ndiaye if he's fit. So that's sort of a 4 in the middle with the other 2 on the wings, slightly further up. And then I do feel what Rodger said there, the midfield battles there where it's won or lost. I think Szoboszlai for them is a good player. I think Gravenberch all love him, don't they? I mean, I haven't seen that much where I've thought, he's going to be a world-class midfielder, but he is effective. He's a good player. So that's probably the 2 that they have. So yeah, I mean, I'd like Moyes to go for it in the most calm way you possibly can, but I just think it's silly if you get sort of twixt in between and think, do you know what, we can go there and we can get a really good result. I think that's what he'll do in terms of getting the last 20 maybe. If we're behind, he just throws the kitchen sink at them. But if it's still 0-0, he won't be making any changes in terms of get Everton to try and score another goal as well. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see us go there. And with it being a dead rubber, as I keep on saying, all you've got is like work the next day or whatever it is when you're talking to them after the match. That is a bit of, do you know what? I'm not feeling like I do about being as down as I do when Liverpool go and beat us when it actually matters. I mean, we've been there in the past, haven't we, where we're threatened with relegation, and if they do us, then we're going to get even closer to being dropped. We're not going to go there, and if we win, that's not going to cost them anything for the league either. So, I'm in between thinking that Moyes should set this up where we've been playing recently, because we have been in good form. As much as you said there, let's we're 13th on the form list, but that's because we've had a lot of draws. It's not because Everton have been losing. So we've. I hate to say this because I think if you put Goodison to one side and what we're all going to do and we're all going to emotionally have towards the end of the season, it does get the sense to me in most games that we are sort of going to meander towards the end of the campaign, which it's fine by me given what we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. We haven't gone on to the last few games having to win. That'll be a bit of a relief, I think. Liverpool away here, I just want to get it out the way, to be honest with you. I'll be really intrigued more so. That game against Arsenal I think that'll be a little bit more of a flag we put in the sand against what we've done to progress under David Moyes. So this is a bit different for me. For me, for a long time, it's always felt like a cup game itself. Against Liverpool, in regardless of whether it's a cup game or whether it's a league game. Going there, I think everything in and around it. With us, like I said, if it wasn't for the to win the title, or if it wasn't for Everton's relegation battle, then obviously it means completely different. But right now, it does feel like a bit of a cup game. So I'm inclined to say go there, Moyes, and have a real go at these bastards.
Yeah, I agree. I think like you've said, the fact that there's no jeopardy there when this could have been a really intense game
Huge.
for both
Yeah.
teams.
Yes.
I think the fact that they're so far clear, even though they'll still cry it in this week, they'll still say, "Oh, we ain't playing Everton," but no, not having it. They'll still cry it in for the 12.
What they hate, what they absolutely hate more than anything else, is Everton acting like they don't care. Even if we do, if you say, "Do you know what? I'm not asked about this. We're safe. See what happens towards the end of the season. See what players we're going to sign. Do the things we've all spoken about out of contract, owners, stadium. We've got bigger fish to fry, dare to say it right now. Don't be asked about Liverpool away." And that's what they feed off, is when we're, "Oh, do you know what? I'm really worried about this. I hate derbies. I hate all this. I hate all that." To me, there's more important things for Everton than going away to Liverpool. And I never thought I'd say that for some time.
I know. I feel the same. As sort of it's sort of become a game where I'm only really that bothered about them when we play them, which I've not been like that for years. I mean, when I was younger, I was kind of obsessed with their results, just wanted them to get beat. I'm actually not that bothered now. I'm made up when they do, but I think there's a slight ambivalence there towards them, and I don't know. It kind of, there's a bit of hypocrisy there, isn't there? Because you get this from the fans and their players about our cup final, when they care about it just as much as us, like they proved after we nicked that draw at Goodison. Just want to pick up on that sort of rivalry then, Rodger, and the attitude. So I haven't done the stuff with Gavin read his books. There was a big turning point in the 70s where a big problem with the Everton managers was, and especially Gordon Lee, they were obsessed with Liverpool and trying to catch them up because there wasn't much between the two clubs. But the atmosphere between the two clubs wasn't bad. There was a lot of bridge building between them, where they sort of speak complimentary about each other. That all kind of changed in the 90s.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure where it is now. I think the rivalry's been so muddied by the sort of keyboard warriors and the Twitter fans and that. It's a strange rivalry for me now. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, it is a strange one. I've seen it, through growing up and going to school and what have you. 1989 Cup final. Obviously, post Hillsborough, I was there, and mostly surrounded by Reds, and absolutely zero animosity. A real sense of togetherness, and for all the damage that Heysel arguably did. Hillsborough, the tragedy of Hillsborough did bring the fans together, and always will bring the fans together. To me, the 90s, I don't really know why. I could guess, but I can remember when I used to sit in the main stand at the edge of the Goodison, the Gladys Street penalty area. Every derby, there'd be a sort of knot of about 20 Reds that somehow would get in the Gladys Street, and there'd be a punch up about 5 minutes into the game. You could see it kicking off. I don't live in the city anymore, in the area, so I can't really comment on the local rivalry. But what I can is, when I come across Reds, as I do, living down south and going in and out of London a fair bit, and you see them. Now it's sunny down here, you see them on the beach. Inevitably, you'll find Liverpool shirts, Man United shirts, but you'll find people wearing their merchandise. It says here, wearing his Everton merchandise. I think they took advantage of the opportunity that the Premier League offered, and we didn't. And I think the rivalry between us and them is yes, two football clubs, but it's us being the sort of traditional club with the local fans and all of that bollocks, against them with their glory hunting Norwegians flying in. And their fans who don't even know that Everton are from Liverpool. So I think we feel that we're sort of taking on a bit more than just a football club. We're taking on modern football, because we don't like modern football, because we preferred it in the 60s and the 70s, when you had the letters around the pitch, and the man went round to tell you what the halftime scores were. And that's the boat that we've missed, isn't it? Now maybe we'll catch it from Bramley Moore, who knows? And so maybe we are taking on, when we play Liverpool in particular, we're almost, it's what we could have been. because there have been those sliding doors moments, not just Shankly and Paisley, but those sliding doors moments, you know, when we could have got into the Champions League and they didn't need to win in bloody Istanbul. You know, those moments where we were very close to them and close to getting beyond them, and we never managed to do it. And then, you know, for all of their pathetic league titles, they've still been messing about in Europe and having glory nights whilst we've got a Fiorentina and a Bayern Munich game to go on about. That's about it. So I think there's so much more to it. And as someone who's, you know, in his 60s now, I hate them just as much as I ever did, but I admire them. I absolutely admire them for the style of football they play, but I can't stand their fans. I absolutely hate their fans because they're ignorant, because they are glory hunters, because they are fair weather, and because they are the most entitled bunch of fans you'll ever come across.
I mean, to be fair, they did have the Roy Hodgson era, so
yes, they did. Yes,
you've got to give them that. Funny, just a funny thing about the international fans. So I've just been to Paris, and I met two people over there who just asked where I was from. So I was like, "Wirral, near Liverpool." I'm like, "Oh, Liverpool," and they obviously assumed I was a Red. I was like, "Oh," but straight away, and it was like, "I will support Everton," and both of them, the faces dropped. One guy was Italian and one guy was German, and they looked at me like I just pissed on the feet. It's strange, really, really odd.
Yeah, I was like that in Vegas when we got married. It was like any time they ask, you know, you go to the bar or whatever, and they go, "Where you from?" and say Liverpool, and you feel like you have to, you know, when they don't know Liverpool, it's like the Beatles. You always have to say the Beatles.
Yeah.
But then others who are sports fans will say, "Oh, Liverpool, yeah, it must be like a really great side, and you know, winning trophies." I'm like, "No, I'm a fan of the better one," and they're like, "Who's that?" Oh, Everton, you know, and I feel like giving them Rob Vida's card or something like that. You know, you want an American. You want to know an American that knows about Everton? There you go. Go and speak to him. And you know, I feel as if that links with what you said there, Rodger, about the way the game is today. That I do feel as if I don't know, maybe envious is the wrong term, but because we've missed so many opportunities to take Everton global, if you like, that I think epitomizes it when you do speak to fans about that. And you know, I mean, that's hopeful. That's hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting the new owners in who obviously are American, getting us to, like, for instance, we're going there this summer, all of that sort of thing. But I do feel as if we're too late for that unless you get onto the gravy train that is success, and that's when you're bringing in those fans who are half-arsed around the world. That's exactly what they've done, and unfortunately, that's what football is these days. You look at Chelsea. I remember when Chelsea hit form, you'd see someone with a Chelsea shirt on from all over the globe, all over the world, and sadly, that's the way that the game is these days. And we could sit here crying it in, but that's what Everton need to go and do, and being able to go and do that is by winning these games like this, because there'll be. And I remember Sky always used to do the adverts on it saying there's billions of people who are going to watch this game. Everton go and do them there, then that's Everton in the spotlight, and it's a real shame that that's what it's got to take for us to go and do that. But the point you guys were both making there about that excellent listen with Gav, I implore anybody to go and listen to it in regards to how that they've entwined each other over the history, and the situation we're in right now is very, very different to how it used to be, including, again, you use that term bitter blue, but what Everton could have done Premier League time, and you know, beyond that, you're referring to how they sort of not needed each other, but there was a healthy bridge between them, perhaps. And like you say, Rodger, there, the thing that will never go away with that is Hillsborough. But nowadays, it feels very fake. It feels like it's been built. I mean, the amount every single year I get asked, "Can you go and do this? Can you go and do that?" And you know, and then you get asked questions, or how much of a rivalry is this? How big is this game for Everton? It's the biggest game in Everton's season, and all that, which is true. And I feel as if, speaking to older Reds, Everton's their biggest game of the season. I think that is obviously changing with younger fans, because now it's Manchester City. It was Manchester United, but I think it's slightly older.
It was Chelsea for about 2 seasons as well.
Yeah, of course, Chelsea. That sort of, it changes like that, doesn't it? The narrative changes with them quite quickly. But you talk to all the fans, it was always Everton It was Everton was your biggest game. First fixtures you look at when it comes out is when's the derby. And I like that. I like that. I feel that way when we still get it. Maybe obviously they're listening to this and thinking, you know what, you're still you're still loving the past. You're still keeping your mind in the past because you look at, you're going to play us, we're far superior and all that shit. Us doing them over, that Tarkowski goal, they were seething over that. They were seething because of how much we loved it, and they were seething because they didn't win the game. And that, to me, is why our club will always be the better of the two, because it was so natural when we scored that goal. I think if they equalised in the last minute, you wouldn't get that feeling from them, obviously, because they're expecting to win the game. But when we're playing them at Goodison, I think we're predominantly wanting to win, going to win that game in our mindset. We're playing them at Goodison. Everton should win the derby. I think we all have that mentality when we play them at home. To take points from them, which they had, even though it vaguely didn't mean much to them, given the fact they won the league several months ago. That was lovely. That was so nice getting that draw at the end. The goal itself, just like them, like Tarkowski just belting one right down the throat and saying "fuck you." That's what it still means to me, and that's what it'll mean to me this week. But nothing other than that, really, than having a bit of a piss taken if we go and beat them and think, you know what? And what I'm doing a lot is playing down the fact that we knew they won the league a while back. It's not like you get into the last few games of the season and it's really on the edge like United and Arsenal back in the day. They've gone and pissed what is effectively a poor league. Let's face it, if Manchester City were half as good as they were last season or the previous three that they've gone and won it, that's when you'd look at it and think this is a proper rivalry chase for the title. I think the funny thing is that them going and pissing it doesn't feel as much of a thrill as it would if it was a genuine challenge. Yeah. Arsenal just look like they bottle it every year, don't they? So, get it done, get it sorted, let them celebrate, let them have the parade, and then we're going and looking forward to a new summer and a lot of positivity. So, get it done, get it over.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's I mean, honestly, I'd be embarrassed to win the league this season. It's so bad, but
you can't go that far, to be honest. I know it's taking 40 minutes to get that far.
No, I think it's right though. It's like because there's not much jeopardy involved in this game other than the usual bragging rights nonsense, really. I mean, that said, it will still be a horrible 90 minutes and it'll still be dead nerve-wracking and I'll still be sort of watching it from behind the couch. But yeah, I think it's one of the more relatively relaxed ones we can have. What I am looking forward to... Oh, sorry, just before I move on to that, I was reading a story today that apparently Moyes is looking at Ben Doak, I think his name is. He's a Liverpool winger on loan at... Yeah.
Is it Doak or Doak? It's pronounced Doak.
Sorry, not pronounced Doak. That makes sense. Like yeah, it's not like me to murder a pronunciation. But in this article in the Metro, they had 12 players to represent Liverpool and Everton. So they've listed 12 players, right? They've missed like probably if not the most famous, certainly the most decorated one out. So the list here, and the way
can we guess how many Reds there are compared to Blues?
So what? Who've gone from Liverpool to Everton?
Whoever's put it together, I'm going to guess the amount of Reds they've picked because I'm presuming it isn't. Aside from the keeper, 5 Reds and 5 Blues. I'm presuming.
It's players who played for both clubs.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Players who played for both. So,
try and name them.
Yeah, go ahead then.
Go on, Peter Beardsley.
Yes.
Nicky Barmby.
Yeah.
Abel Xavier.
Yeah.
Kevin Sheedy.
Yeah.
Gary Ablett. Did I say Gary Ablett?
You missed Gary Ablett off the list. Won the FA Cup with both teams, the only player ever to do it.
The late Gary Ablett. Gary Ablett. That's 5 from me. Go on, Dave. You do your 5 now.
What's his? I was getting his name wrong. McCann. What's his bloody name in the middle?
Steve McMahon.
Steve McMahon.
Yeah.
McMahon.
Yeah, he's on there.
Wow. I mean, I'm struggling. Who we had in recent years apart from Barmby?
So one played captain for us.
Oh, Hutchison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Hutchison, yeah, good
Don,
shout.
yeah.
Rodger, one from the 70s, played for Everton in the 69-70 team, I think. Played for the Reds later in the decade. Striker.
David Johnson.
Yes.
David Johnson of Ipswich. Had to go to Ipswich under a cloud, I heard. But I'm not going to say what that cloud contained.
There was an unwritten rule, wasn't there? The players wouldn't go directly between clubs.
Yeah.
And I think that's why. Is that why McMahon went to Villa in between as well?
I think it was, yeah.
Possibly.
I mean, by then we signed Sheedy from them, but he wasn't like a first teamer, was he? So
no.
Surely not. Is Sheedy on there? Did he actually?
Yeah, I said Sheedy.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah, he got a game there, didn't he? Yeah. Wow.
Dave Hickson.
Yes.
Well before my time.
And then sadly, missing out some real heavyweights here, lads, I'm afraid. David Burrows.
World class.
Connor Cody.
Oh no, I've got one. The keeper, Westerveld.
Yes, that was the last one on the list.
Yeah,
Westerveld. I was just staggered that he missed off.
He had about 3. He come for like a month's loan, didn't he? And had like 2 or 3 games for us, and he was absolutely woeful.
So long as they don't mention Benitez, because he was never our manager, I still refuse to accept he ever was our manager.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, do you know what does me head in with that is Agent Rafa and all that shit.
Jesus,
it was inevitable, wasn't it? But yeah, I think the only ones that are really cause for concern on that are McMahon and Barnby, aren't they? Really, I think they're the only ones anyone was bothered about. Although I don't know how the Reds felt about Beardsley coming to us.
Beardsley.
I don't know how they felt. What were they like? Because I was in school when it happened, and I don't remember many Reds kicking off about it. They were more aghast and probably just angry at Souness, like they always were.
There was one that I wanted to talk to you two about here randomly, and my dad despises him to this day. Absolutely despises him because he nearly came. Dean Saunders.
Yeah, Dean Saunders is one of those players that Gavin talks about, and Jan Molby, that we were very close to signing both of those players.
Remember Sissoko? We nearly got Sissoko as well. Didn't he come and do like a tour of the ground and all that, and then they ended up signing him?
Yeah,
remember him? Big fella in midfield.
Yeah.
Dean Saunders was one though. He was signed basically.
Yeah.
He all but dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and then just went to them.
Yeah, he decided. Honestly, my dad would. He's really ill these days, but he would absolutely he batter him if you see piss all over his face if he's seen him out in the public. He said he cannot stand Dean Saunders because he was an arrogant little shit, and he doesn't do any punditry anymore, does he?
He does a bit on TalkSport every now and
then. He still do that shit,
and then he gets kicked off after a day or two of chatting shit. Yeah. He's Souness's mate because he went with Souness out to Turkey. And he was in that team where, they put the flag in the centre circle when they won the cup final. I'm sure he played for Souness in Turkey, yeah.
I found that really funny, to be honest with you, when he did that flag thing. Every time I see him, like laughing my head off and down. It's the way he struggles to get it in, like it's concrete on the floor.
Well, maybe Moyes can do that, and maybe Alcaraz can do that at full time when he scored the winner.
Yeah, Alcaraz is a nailed on red card.
Isn't he just? Yeah, God, don't please.
Just before we wrap up, then, just moving on to the weekend's game, might as well talk about that a little bit against Arsenal. One I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be one of those big final games of Goodison, isn't it? It's usually a good atmosphere against Arsenal. We usually go and beat them. Do you think Moyes will be thinking ahead to that game? So if you're thinking, Ndiaye's on the cusp of coming back, maybe McNeil, do you rest them for Liverpool and think they'll be, in better shape for Arsenal, or do you risk them against Liverpool? Rodger, what would you do in that situation? Because I'm a bit torn because it does feel like Arsenal's the more winnable game, and maybe throw everything at
games. Les, you need to get on board the glory train here. They're both winnable games. I'm sorry to tell you that. I was going to say earlier, actually, this idea came to me after we were discussing tactics, but I would consider starting 4-5-1, 5 in midfield. We have to flood the midfield against Liverpool, and I would play. This is get prepared to shout at however you're listening to this. I would play Ndiaye as a false 9 against Liverpool. That's what I would do. I'd get bodies in midfield. I'd get Doucouré, the 2 Garners in midfield, Lindstrom, and maybe even Ashley Young on the left-hand side of midfield, getting up and down. I would play 5 in midfield, and I would put Ndai as a false 9, because I think whether you play Beto or Broja, I think Van Dijk just nods everything away and has a very easy game. But if he doesn't have anyone to mark, and maybe Ndai running in behind, balls over the top, and Van Dijk has a very, very large turning circle, maybe we could do damage. Arsenal, I think we beat Arsenal. I think Arsenal are a team in real transition. I don't think they offer much going forward without Saka, and Havertz is out. So I think we can beat Arsenal. Good. From corners, of course, we need to be wary of that. They're not as strong in midfield. And I think if we press them high up the pitch, I think we can get, probably a comfortable 2-0 win against the Gunners. Early Saturday kickoff, take the rest of the Then the weekend, get straight into the Grand National, which we'll come to in a short while.
We'll come to that in a sec. Dave, what are your thoughts on Arsenal?
That Arsenal, I mean, you've got one of my favourite players there. If you keep him quiet, I think you've got through more than 50% of what you need to, and that's Odegaard. I really like watching him. I think he's a world-class player. He's not the strongest though, so I think
exactly.
if you get physically in and amongst them there, then and I think you've done quite a lot of the job you need to. They've got Marino up front, who looks okay, but he's relatively inexperienced, and I don't think he'll be coming to one of the real old-fashioned grounds, which is an interesting theory. I think these days, with there's just been a few games left at Goodison, players that come to have, like, particularly foreign players who are new to the Premier League, come to Goodison. And they do freeze because they're just they've not seen anything like that in their careers, coming to a traditional English stadium. You see it with Villa, and we mentioned like Leeds and sides that have still got their traditional grounds. And, I think actually, maybe ironically, they feel much more comfortable when they come to Bramley Moor because it's a brand new stadium, which is where they always play these days. I've changed my mind. I'd overly go completely shithouse at Anfield and play those under-18s that we watched at Bramley Moor. Do what you want, lads. Tell the kids to go and play like they're playing five-a-side. Go on, boys. Do what you like. Arsenal's the big one. But in all seriousness, I think that's a good shout from what Rodger said there about Ndai. Just do something different, because I think they'll be planning for this right now, won't they? Their manager will be looking at the way we were in the game at Goodison as well. I mean, they'll be really. I can imagine him all this week building up to this game. Like, there's your motivation to these fellas who thought they were done by the referee and VAR when they came to Goodison. They were absolutely fuming at the end. That's what I've feared, is because they're just going to want to just destroy us, given what happened there, and we completely pissed them off. But they'll never take that away from us, will they? Not like when Klopp was kicking off on ball boys who were 12 or something like that. They won't take that away from us. So yeah, I mean, I'd prioritise Arsenal, but I do love Rodger's way of thinking and thinking we go and get 6 points from the pair of them.
Yeah, let's have it. Right, before we finish then, Rog, it's obviously Grand National this week. So once the Arsenal game's done, the Grand National will be on about an hour or so later. So you've got some tips?
I've just got a couple of each way tips, both about 20-1 at the moment. Number one is Can Do Kid with K's. Paul Nicholls trains, Harry Cobden will ride. It's been the aim all season. Can Do Kid ran well over the Grand National fences last year in the Topham Chase on the Thursday or Friday, I think it is, and then won the Coral Gold Cup at Newbury. And Paul Nicholls knows what he's doing. Harry Cobden is probably my favourite jockey, so 20-1 on him. Good bet.
Is that on the Thursday, is it, Rodger?
No, the Grand National, both in the Grand National. It ran last year on the Thursday. Okay. Yeah, both of these are in the Grand National. Can Do Kid at 20s, and then Meeting of the Water is a similar price, trained by Willie Mullins. Came 7th last year, just got a bit tired when it got to the elbow. Another year older this year. So I think perhaps another JP McManus owned horse. He's got plenty. Last year's winner, I Am Maximus, as well. Meeting of the Waters at 20-1. Can Do Kid at 20-1. Those would be 2 against the field. Have your 50p each way for your anti-Ethel on that. Get down the bookies early doors on Saturday.
Yeah. Where's that happen, by the way? Where's that happen these days? I remember, like, in the old days, my nan, she get the echo on. She'd close her eyes, and the old fashions, or what's your favourite number? Do you reckon that still happens with the Grand National these days? I don't know way.
Of course it does. And there's nothing more annoying to someone like me who bothers to study the form than someone going, I just like the name. and I liked the colours, and it was 66-1. You know, I spent all of Cheltenham, as you know, messing around, and my wife came to watch a couple of the races on the Friday, and she picked the first winner, Air of Entitlement, because Rachel Blackmore was on it at 20-1. She won 150 quid and went out for the afternoon. And there's me going, "But how did you do that?" It was Rachel Blackmore. Obviously, you back her, don't you? So yeah, people just pick, and it doesn't really matter. You do whatever your methodology, stick a pin in the paper, and you might get lucky.
Well, that's it. They did. I think I remember my nan. Do you remember the one Mon Moan won 100-1?
Yes, was yeah.
She had £2 each way on that, and she took us all out for the meal.
Good on her.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny, isn't it? The other thing about it is we've spoken a lot about nostalgia with derbies and stuff. Does anyone actually go to the betting shop and put it on? Because it's always online or with apps these days, isn't it? You know. But
very few people go to the bookies anymore. I don't know why they haven't closed. I mean, there should be.
True.
Maybe all the bookies have become charity shops. I don't know.
Yeah.
There we go. It's going to be a big weekend anyway, and a big midweek leading up to it. Let us know your thoughts on the derby. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. If you're listening on the podcast, you can leave comments, can't you, Dave?
Yeah, you can. You can leave comments all over the place, good, bad, or ugly. We'll delete the ones that are ugly. Yeah. But again, I just want to say, though, like what you guys did with Gav there, I mean, obviously it's in 2 parts, the extensive documentary. Anywhere you're going, anywhere you're traveling, if you've got time at home, well worth your time listening to that. And you being of elderly gentlemen, shall I say, not to be too nice. What you three go through there is like, and it's very fitting for given what's going on this week. Arsenal traditional battle, and obviously the derby as well. There's all sorts there that you'll sort of maybe grit your teeth into, and others that you'll smile at.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable pod to do. Right, cheers, Dave. Cheers, Rog. That has been it for this week's Blue Monday. We've got all the usual stuff coming up on the Blue Room next week, and we'll catch you next week on next week's Blue Monday.